Tim Shaw, former international cricketer and now a People Development Practitioner and author. Tim, congratulations on the publication of your third book, due out probably in October, you say. This one titled Relationship Philosophy. Tell us about it and what are you hoping to achieve with book number 3?
Thanks, Simon. I guess I'm hoping to achieve the same as the other two books, which is all centered around my purpose. And my purpose is to help people change what they choose to change and to get better for life. So I've kind of stuck with that theme. But if I may just go back a step to the first book I wrote, Leading Self and Others. It was during the Zuma tumultuous years when he was turning South Africa on its head. And I was involved very much with leadership and people asking me questions. And my personal business went through some really, really bad times, which were all leadership related as well. And I said, look, I've actually got to research this in a bit more detail and know what I truly believe and how I want to be leading my life. So the content and what I engage with people comes from greater authenticity, because it is easy to say, oh, this is my purpose, and you can kind of felt good, but a couple of weeks later, you weren't going to get out of bed based on that purpose. So I needed to know. And so I wrote the book. It was kind of purging at the same time. There's a South African flavor to it. And that
Yeah.
was Leading Self and Others. And then the second book was Teaming with Ideas. That came out after COVID. Quite
Okay.
interesting because I'd finished formal sport. I'd stopped playing cricket and hockey and all those sort of things. And it's kind of when you've been playing with a goal all the time and you suddenly stop, life just goes by and you wonder what next. I think we've all been there. I think the astronauts called it moon sickness. You've been to the moon and back, and now what next? So you've got to
Yeah.
have some sort of goal. And here I'm on the beachfront, and every Saturday I'm seeing the group of folk running up and down. And I say, what's going on with these guys? I'm sitting drinking coffee, feeling guilty because they're exercising. They seem to be having a bit of fun. And here I am, just letting the day go by. So they said, no, this is parkrun. This is what it's all about. I said, okay, well, I don't really know if it's me, but let me just go and dip my toe in the water. And off I went. And sure enough, one event became over 100. I just sat back there and I just started to realize, good grief, all my teaming experiences, which were formalized because I had to go
Yeah.
and play, practice at certain times and conform to certain things, I now could do it in a different environment, an entirely voluntary environment, but part of a greater community team
Okay.
and experience what other people were getting. So if the weather was foul and the wind was blowing, it was up to me. Did I want to go or didn't I want to go? Did I want to go and meet new people, different personalities, be exposed to different things? And the ideas just started flying through my mind. And I thought, gee, what about all those people? And I worked in corporate for a while, and there's a lady who retired there after 35 years in admin. She was a lovely lady, been there for 35 years, did great work. And wow, these people don't get experience team work
Yeah.
or team ethos other than sitting here in the office. And there's so much more to life. You can experience it elsewhere. And I thought, wow, I could write a book here, and it's helped a lot of people. Gee, the one group I spoke to, the lady said that she's bought new tackies, and well, not tackies. Nowadays it's like 3 grand
Yeah.
a pair of fancy running shoes. Her husband said,
Yeah.
"What on earth are you doing?" No, I'm going to park run. And her whole life, she just spoke with such vitality that her friends were being influenced because it had changed her life. She was meeting new people. She was getting out there. She was learning things about herself. Because you find out if you're competitive or not. I mean, why do it? So eventually she said, what was my time last time? Maybe I can do a little bit better or whatever. Anyway, so that was teaming with ideas. And then I guess one shouldn't have the authority to write on something that you haven't done or experienced in the past. And that's where philosophy comes in, because I don't think young people can write about philosophy.
Yeah.
Yet as we tend to age, I think those questions shift
Yeah.
very much from a what I'm going through type of question towards a where am I going to? Because time is fleeting, hey, and it just flies, as you know. And so I started pondering that more and more. And then I said, okay, well, what is the elixir of life? What would it be? And I said, it's got to be relationships. And
Yeah.
hence
Yeah.
philosophy of relationships. Let me write a book about that. So that's how I got to write philosophy of relationships, relationship philosophy.
Awesome. Parkrun is quite an institution. You say you're over 100 now, is that right?
Well, I'm not doing it anymore.
Okay.
I've moved into other things now. I was involved there for quite a few years actually. I did a little bit of volunteering as well, and
Okay. Yeah,
yeah, it was only meant to be one or two runs, and it ended up a few years.
fantastic. I've just got over 50 and my son and I do it. And it's just fantastic actually meeting people. You can become so isolated in life, as you were saying, and then suddenly there's this whole community everywhere just doing it. And I found after doing a couple of races, suddenly you're starting to make friends and stuff. It's really wonderful. And the fitness and the competitiveness. Yeah.
Exactly, Simon. I was actually blown away by that. I hadn't been exposed to that before.
Mm,
Um, and just some of the feedback that you get from participants, people with social problems,
yeah.
and now just suddenly finding life again
Mm,
through being exposed to people in a very non-threatening, organized environment where they know what to expect and the
yeah.
type of person that's going there. It is just phenomenal, and what it's done. And Bruce Fordyce is ambassador in South Africa, and it's quite remarkable, as you say, globally, what's happened.
Mm,
Yeah, and you can take it as seriously as you want to. That's the beautiful thing about it. There's no one forcing you. It's entirely up to you. So you get your own speed,
yeah.
and you meet people all the time. You can decide if you want to hang around afterwards and speak to some folk. And as you say, there's some regulars you come across there. And when the howling westerly wind's blowing and there's rain sleeting down on you, and who's going to be here today? He's
Yeah.
coming. Some of the folk come and others don't. And it's very interesting. Yeah.
Okay, so Tim, what should people expect to get out of your book, Relationship Philosophy, and how do you feel they should best engage with it?
It depends what you're looking for. There's that saying that goes that, well, you don't look for the keys until you know you're in jail. If you're searching, then you're going to probably find it. If you're not searching, what are you looking for? Just anything will do. And that leads to
Yeah,
mediocrity. So if someone's really looking for enhanced relationships and to improve in certain areas or whatever their lives, their relationship with themselves and with others, it's probably what it offers them. George Bernard Shaw said that in the right key, you can say anything. In the wrong key, you can say nothing. The
okay.
fragile business of life is establishing the right key because there needs to be a spirit of unity. And book is all about helping people establish their right key for their relationships. Yeah, I'll go through various chapters, including the brain, which is obviously where it all starts. So the book encourages introspection, honest dialogue, and the courage, I guess, to explore how we love, how we hurt, how we grow, how we show up for ourselves, and how we show up for others. It gets you to look at your key relationships, of which I identify four. Those are your cornerstone relationships, which are a relationship with your God, with your spouse, with yourself, and with your children. And then all other relationships fall outside of that. Obviously, they're important depending on how you define them, but
Yeah,
and what's expected of them. But those are the four key relationships. And then what you can use then is I provide a star rating. So you can rate the quality of your relationships that you've identified according to a star rating. So, for example, you can go from 1 stars to 5 stars. 1 star is just where relationships are starting. Maybe you meet the person for the first time. You've got no idea where it's going to go. If you even want to see them
yeah,
again or whatever it is, you have no idea. Whereas a 5 star is which your the people closest to you, you should have a 5 star relationship or aim towards that.
yeah,
That's what you should aim towards. So it's definitely your spouse or your partner, your children. And it's actually allowing you to analyze and see, okay, great. This is a relationship. I'd like to have a 5 star relationship with my wife, but what are some of the words that are being used to describe that particular star? Do they match up to the expectations that I have for it?
yeah,
So, for example, if you had a 3 star relationship with your partner, your wife, your husband, 3 star would the one of the words there, and I have 7 key words for each of those different stars. The one key word is satisfying. So, okay, then your relationship with your wife would be satisfying, or your partner would be satisfying. Is that what you want? And I presume not. So the next one is okay, if I want to go from 3 to 4 star, it needs to be a gratifying relationship. And then what are some of the things that I need to do in order to make that shift? And then if I
yeah,
really want to go to 5 star and have that 5 star relationship, man, it's going to be joy filled. So that is what you aim for. 5 star is a joyful relationship. And I don't think you get more than that in life. If you have joy in your life, you may have problems and things, but if you have joy in your life, you're pretty pretty satisfied with your life. You can't be more than that. So yeah, so once you've ranked, use the star ratings for your different relationships, then I take you through relationship mastery and 12 different themes which underpin the philosophy that we live our lives by. Well, these are the ones
Yeah.
that I've identified. You'll be familiar with all of them, although I've just maybe packaged them in a slightly different way and given them a different terminology. But let me just go through those 12, just to give you an idea. And these are, well, it starts with prioritize what is most important to you. The most important thing in life is to know what's most important.
Yeah.
So that's why I started with that one. And then what shapes your world? Who and what shapes your world? Do you, or is it shaped from the inside out or outside in? Is it social media? Is the locus of control internal or external to you? Who shapes it? And you can ask questions around that. You see, the whole idea of the book, Simon, is not to be prescriptive at all, but
Mm.
is to learn some stuff there for people to think around so they probe and examine their philosophies. Because if we have to ask
Yeah.
people about to describe their philosophy to you, they'll like look at you and they give you some sort of vague idea, just like I was when I started out. Because I remember asking my wife, well, not asking her, she asked me, Tim, what you writing about? I said, no, philosophy. She just laughed. She said, what do you know about philosophy? I said, nothing much, but probably as much as you do. She said,
Yeah.
no, she does nothing. I said, no, you probably know more than you think. You just haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's just getting people to start thinking about it. And if they think it's important, they're looking for some of the keys, then engage with the material and see what surfaces to help them articulate their philosophy. So control what you can control, live a life of choice. That's
Yeah.
another one.
Whenever we have problems in our life, it's often because we've become complacent or we've just forgotten about things. And with a relationship, it's something you really want to grow and develop. As you say, start at one and go to five. And that all requires actually thinking. And we tend with so much in our life to stop thinking and we go on autopilot. And especially with our spouses and our kids, we then maybe lose our way. And that's why what's so interesting about your book, the early edition that I've read, is just that it helps us, it reminds us to think about things and then all these things can come up. So that's to me what's so important about your book.
Yeah, Simon, it's not an easy read. Eh? It's not a quick read, should I say?
Yeah.
It's not something you're just going to pick up and just flip through because you're going to have to stop and ponder. That's if you want to
Mm.
take it seriously and get full value.
Yeah.
Stop, ponder, analyze things, compare. What does apply to me? What do I agree with?
Mm.
What don't I necessarily agree with? What do I need to think around? Who do I need to question to get some answers? Because, as you say, with the relationships, people nowadays, and I know, I've had children, they go on there and they hit the AI button and I'm looking for this type of person, whatever, and this is it. And this is what I want to think and say. What should I say and how should I say it? And everything's there. And,
Yeah.
and they're getting told to do it, but they haven't really thought about it much, you say, because you're always looking for shortcuts.
Mm.
Um, and whatever's most convenient and easiest to do. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's thinking takes effort. It takes effort. It's not easy.
But
That's why a lot
in
of
a way,
people
it's
don't.
it's almost like a workshop with yourself, which also is something that you have experience with. But so you've got to work through it yourself. But your book is really priming people and helping people to know where to start thinking, which is great.
Yeah, these themes, philosophical themes, will definitely help people think about how they're living their philosophy. Live a
Mm.
life of choice. Exactly. I mean, we
Yeah.
all given a hand of cards. We dealt with that hand. We can't. That's fate.
Yeah.
We can't change the hand that we've been dealt, but we can choose at any stage how we actually play that hand. So
Yeah.
it gives people, wow, I can do something about what I've got. Always be open to learning. For
Mm.
sure. I mean, it's amazing how some people say they haven't read a book since they finished school. I'm like, oh, okay, well, good luck. Live simply so that others may simply live. And we all know about that. We all accumulate too much stuff
Yeah.
and eventually we get so heavy burden that we can't stand up from the floor anymore. Focus
Mm.
on the root, not the fruit. That's another
Exactly.
one.
Yeah.
We just want the glamour and the glitz and the end result, and not really looking at what's going to be required to put in the hard yards. I mean, those people who get the gold medal, man, they've sacrificed so much,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's made to look so easy when you watch it on television and you see old Alcaraz just coming and taking Sinner quite nicely. 22-year-old, kind of, oh, okay, he's 22, I can do it. There's so much behind it. So focus on the
Yeah.
root, and then you'll probably get the fruit that you're looking for. But it doesn't come the other way around, unfortunately. We so often want to grab the fruit. That's why they're all the fast foods and things. Just get it done quickly and take
Yeah.
it. But it's that beneficial in the long term, is it? Make a difference where you are with what you got is another one. People say, well,
Absolutely.
what have I
Yeah.
got? I've got nothing. No, no, read the book. You've got a lot more than you think you have. And I'm just starting off with just one of the things is that you've got is the thumbprint.
Yeah.
No one has your thumbprint. You are actually a freak. You're unique. You're totally individualistic. What is your thumbprint? And people don't
Mm.
understand what thumbprints are. They're missing out on life. I really feel sorry for them. Say, come on, explore, do some stuff. Who are you? When do you feel great doing things? When don't you feel great? What are you attracted towards? What do you do best that other people seem to struggle with? And all those sorts of things. So you've got something. You've got an attitude. You've got a mind. You've got a life. You've got the power of now. A whole lot of different things there. Anyway, it's in the book. Develop relationships and influence people by working with human nature.
Yeah.
So that's another one. So often we tend to try and force people and coerce, perhaps, maybe even manipulate, heaven forbid. But we do. But work with human nature, and you're going to get a different result and different response. Infuse your spiritual quotient with your personal, professional life. Really important as well, because we're spiritual beings. Your
Yeah.
relationship with nature and with earth. We all have a relationship with that, and so important that we get to know what that is. And invariably, if you go out into nature and you experience it in the solitude and the peace and the quietness, you're going to ask different questions and have a greater appreciation for a lot more things in your life. Own a definition of wealth, what wealth and success mean to you. And there again, because I think those are two really relevant questions which keep on popping up throughout the course of your life. With the people
Mm.
that I've spoken to, wealth and success, how do you define them? What will help you feel fulfilled? And hey, I've had a successful life, and my life is wealthy. You know, when I wrote that book, Leading Self and Others, I lost everything at that stage. The only thing that I had left, thank goodness, was my family.
Okay.
I lost everything, and I was feeling so sorry for myself and pointing fingers at everyone and this and that. I'd been forewarned, and I just didn't really listen. I said, "No, things will be okay. Don't you worry, and I can sort things out." And
Wow.
gone. And then I picked up a book, Simon. And you know, it's amazing. That's the value of books. So you can pick up a book and just one line, one paragraph, something there that can just flick your switch and you can be totally different, or it can mean so much to you. And I read a book there. It said, wealth is what you have when the money's gone.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I just, wow, I just read that again. And you know what? I held on to that, hey. I said, I am wealthy.
Yeah.
What's more important than my family, my wife and my children? What's more important? And so I'm
Yeah.
getting wealthier every day. Ever since that day, I've been getting wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. So anyway, so those are the
Brilliant.
12 themes I kind of flick through and get people to they question around themselves.
It's going to engage you because you're going to start thinking, and that's where the power comes in, as you say, of just where you go with knowledge, and that's really good just to get you to keep moving, keep growing. Really, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, if
Um,
we're not learning, we're not growing, hey? And if we're not growing, we're dying.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at someone like Gary Player, my Lord, he's just growing the whole time and fitter than I think both you and me combined, I imagine, and just quite a force of nature. Something also fascinating about your book is that it grapples with two things that are very important to us as humans, our relationships, but also the power of the brain. I was really interested as well in how you work through the subconscious mind in the book. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the power of the conscious mind is incredible. You know, one thing that really amazes me, and is quite upsetting really, is that we don't learn more about how to use our magnificent minds when we're at school in our formative years.
Yeah,
We're not taught anything. Just this is what you've got to learn. Go out there and learn it, and then you're going to get examined. And it's crazy because you've got this most complex organ in the universe, and we're not really guided on how to use it best. Absolutely daft. And one of the things which trips us up all the time through habits, and you've tried to break some habits, I've tried to break some habits, and it just doesn't work until we finally get it right and we do certain things, is the power of the subconscious mind.
yeah,
If we just talked about that, gee, Simon, so many more people would be liberated from a number of different things in their lives. Yeah, they say it's generally accepted that the brain activity of our minds is about 5% conscious, 95% unconscious, massive implications on our behavior. by the age of 35, 95% of who you are is a set of memorized behaviors, beliefs, emotions, perceptions, and attitudes. So you want to think positively, but you can't. You just end up thinking negatively
Yeah.
because it's become a habit. So this is where willpower comes in. People say, "Oh, willpower, willpower, trump everything." No, unfortunately, people with indomitable willpower, skill trumps will.
Yeah.
So you've got to get skillful at deliberately changing those habits and patterns. And that's
Okay.
through rewiring your brain because those neural pathways are so set on doing things in a certain manner. And it's so helpful. Thank goodness we have a subconscious because you don't have to learn every time you go and start up your car how to drive it. You
Yeah.
just get in and without even thinking about it and you hopefully get to your destination. But to change that habit, you've got to unlearn and then relearn a different way of doing something or replacing that habit. You can't just say, I'm going to stop it because that neural pathway is there. It's fast. It's
Yeah.
there until it actually shrivels up and dies, or you've replaced it with something else. And it'll only shrivel up and die if you're not using it and replacing it with something else. So
Okay.
that's why I say, yeah, replace it. Don't just expect it's going to go away because I've got a willpower. There's no one like me. Believe me, when I say I'm going to do something, I do it.
Yeah.
No, I wish it were that easy.
Tim, I also love this passage. Attempts to change fail because people rely on their willpower to eliminate the thing they wish to change without realizing that lasting change only comes about by replacing the experiences, thoughts, feelings, and behavior from the past. And then you explain it by talking about chocolate.
Yeah, Simon, I mentioned chocolate because everyone's familiar with chocolate. I think everyone loves chocolate because of the endorphins which are released and the brain boosters of serotonin and dopamine,
Yeah.
which come about. You get these certain love chemicals as well for those those Valentine Day outings.
Yeah.
But it can become a bit of a problem later on if you have a sedentary lifestyle and you're just taking too much sugar. Uh, Diabetes becomes quite prominent through lifestyle factors if you don't do certain things as you age.
Yeah.
But I just use that one, not to get people to stop it entirely, not at all, but just for people who are binging too much, perhaps. And they really wanted to try and stop the addiction, but they just couldn't. If I may, let me just go into something a bit more practical, which I find really happening a lot in the workplace, and there's a lot of swearing. And for some people, it's acceptable, and others it's not. But
Yeah.
a lot of people don't want to swear, but they just end up doing it because they say everyone around me swears, and it's kind of the only
Mm.
language I understand, and that type of thing. So if I may just use that as an example.
Yeah.
So you say, okay, great. I want to stop swearing. So, okay, you sure you want to stop swearing? Yes. Okay, so what are you going to do about it? No, well, I'm just said I'm going to stop. Well, that's not good enough. You need a plan. You need to develop the skill of actually doing it and deliberate about doing it.
Yeah.
So how will you go about doing it? Because motivation is seldom there when you need it because the brain is wired to actually default to what is easy and push back against what is hard. So it's only
Okay.
when you deliberately do something and push through doing what you don't want to do that you'll start to create that new behavior and get the breakthrough. But you see, you've got to be aware of it while it happens. So it's not in the subconscious, it's got to be conscious. So you want to stop swearing. Okay, now how are you going to do this on your own? Well, you're probably going to struggle on your own. And that's why we always need someone to assist us. So you have a close partner or friend or someone say, listen, I want to stop swearing. And every time you hear me swearing, just let me know there and then, as soon as possible, if you possibly can. Or if you hear other people saying that I've been swearing, you must let me know. But now, because you wanted to do it and you've holding yourself accountable to other people who'll let you know, it's going to make it easier for you. And they're also going to believe that you are changing. Even if you slip up maybe a week later, you haven't sworn the whole week, and they're going to say, wow,
Yeah.
this like's doing so well. And then, boom, the next thing you say, oh, no, you can't change it. Told you, you're not going to be able to change it. But because they bought into you by holding you accountable, they'll say, no, but for a whole week you actually didn't. And that's unusual for you. You are changing. Good grief, there's
Mm.
hope. And
Okay.
they reinforce that for you and they help you with that. And hey, suddenly it becomes a bit easier. But you see, the first time you did, you'll probably just end up swearing and say, oh, but now I've become more aware because I need to stop doing that. You've sown the seed. And if you're serious about it, you're going to start building upon that. And that's how it happens. You see, you've got to be patient with change. People say, oh, you change, you can just change like that. People don't change quickly. You know, and
Yeah.
organizations don't. Organizations don't change. People change one by one. It's a process, and so often we haven't got that patience. So,
Yeah.
anyways, that's really it. How to actually affect that change, so you can break the habit. Now, what actually happens is you've got a new neural pathway that becomes embedded in your subconscious.
Okay.
You can drive that car without thinking about it.
The interesting thing, what you were saying, what struck me was no pain, no gain. Everyone talks about that in a physical sense often, but there's the pain of going through that change, the mental change, that's so strong.
For
But
sure, Simon.
you've got to do the process that you say. Yeah, it was so interesting.
Yeah, and I said we shouldn't really speak or teach stuff that we haven't done or experienced ourselves. I did it with stopping sugar because when I got married, my wife said sugar. I was from a sugar farm. Yeah, we love sugar. 3 spoons a day. It keeps the farming community going, and it's good for you. It gives you energy. And my wife said, no, I don't think so. I think you've been duped. So no sugar. So I eventually said, okay, no sugar. It's much easier actually pouring drinks because you just don't add sugar. It's the same. But honestly, it took me at least about close on 40 days. And then someone served me coffee with sugar and I tasted it and oh, I said, you got sugar in it? They said, yeah, I've got sugar in it. I said, I don't like it. And then I knew I'd won the battle. So
Wow.
honestly, but persevere, you'll break through. You can break through if you really want to.
Yeah.
So it's nice to speak from experience here because you give other people hope. It's possible. But some people may
Mm.
take a day. Some people want to try and stop smoking and they just said, that's my last smoke. They put it out and off they go. And then how
Mm.
do they manage to do that? And other people go to hypnotists and they try this and that and all these gums and things and they still can't stop. Everyone is
Sure.
different, but try something.
Yeah.
Try and do something. You can stop it. You can for sure.
What's
Unless
so
it's a
interesting is
chemical.
that you bring in the fact that some people do these things on their own, they maybe keep it secret, but a lot of what you're talking about actually is about using relationships to help you, to keep you accountable, to motivate you, to set your guidelines. And that's just so important just to really actually work on those relationships. Just another reason to work your relationships.
That's an important point. Yeah, that's why we really need relationships when we're down, don't we? Because when
Yeah,
we're bulletproof
absolutely.
and we're up there, we don't need anyone.
Yeah.
And life's not about that. You're going to have more downs and ups in life.
Tim, you also write about personal bias in the book. What impact can personal bias have in our lives, and how should we look to manage this?
Yeah, it's such an interesting topic, hey, Simon, because some people get quite defensive by saying, I'm not biased towards this or towards that. And it's ridiculous because if you have a brain, you're going to be biased.
Yeah.
You have to be, because where do our biases come from? They come from our experiences, our traditions, our norms, our culture, our influences. And so no one's going to be the same. And we've spoken about the subconscious mind and how that works. So it's going to store all those memories. And then when you see something, going to immediately jump out at you is what's been stored in your subconscious. And that's how you're going to respond. So
Yeah.
to say that we haven't got biases is crazy. We've all got them. And we just need, as you say, how do we best manage them? You see, we see the world as we are, not as it is, because of that, as a result of that.
Okay.
So we need to be always open to, hey, is there another way? Could there be a different way? How are other people seeing this world? So the best way to manage it is to admit it, first of all, that we do all have biases, and then to create psychological safety with those that are close to you and those who want to support you
Okay.
in giving them permission or encouraging them to hold you accountable to things which may appear to be a bias in their eyes. So if they see something that's coming up that looks like you being biased towards or against, they should just gently say, hey, that's interesting why you say that. Is there any particular reason? Why did you say it? Where do you see it? How do you see it? Because this is what I see. And just to share perspectives and then take it from there. Nothing more, really. But
Yeah.
we have to be open, first of all. We can't be defensive. We've got to be open. And some people are just closed, as you know.
Yeah.
And the best way, once again, is having those people around us. They are best allies. So we all need a support group of folk around us.
I like the way you say it because that's very sort of inclusive and almost sort of discussion as opposed to so often in this world, especially in social media, someone says something, well, you have to attack, attack. And one doesn't need to. When even if one has biases or if one's wrong or on the other side, we can just discuss and chat. It's such a nice attitude that you have there.
Yeah, that's what social media does, unfortunately, Simon, because they say if you want to post something on this particular platform, this is how many words you should use, otherwise people are not going to read it. And this one
Yeah.
takes a bit more, this one takes a bit less. This is the style that you should use for this one. And there's so little context there that when someone posts something which can be contentious or even be biased towards something, as you say, people just attack without even knowing what's going on there. I saw something the other day, I thought, how ridiculous. People don't even know what's going on, and they're just throwing in their 2 cents worth. So it's sad. But yeah, because context is everything, particularly in today's social media. If you don't have the context, then don't even comment.
Yeah. But also just good to have the right mindset as well in terms of how you approach things. Tell me, if you had 90 seconds to share some advice with a leader, team leader, business leader, social leader, someone who's wanting to improve themselves, their performance, or just to get better results from his or her team, what would you say to them?
I wouldn't say anything. I'd ask them. And the first question I'd ask them is, why do you want to lead a team? Because once they've established that and they believe in their heart of hearts that that is why they want to, then you can advise them thereafter because it really depends on what they're looking for. There's so much different advice you can give people. That's often why people give sage advice, and it's good advice, and it's based on experience, and it's worked in the past, but it just doesn't connect with that particular person because they haven't established their why. And I
Yeah.
think the why is at the crux of everything. You know, the most important thing in life is one of my themes there is to know what's most important.
Mm.
So why? It's really important if you want to because it comes at a cost, eh? If you want
Yeah.
to lead effectively, it's there's sacrifice involved. Okay, there may be privileges and perks, but if you're going for those only, then you're going to be in big trouble because when the pressure's on, you're gonna wilter, and your people will see it, and they're gonna lose respect for you.
Yeah.
So why? Why do you want to? Think about that. What are the reasons? And then based on the advice that they give to me, I'll actually then share my humble advice with them.
Mm.
And hopefully it'll make more sense to them that they embrace it. You know, Viktor Frankl it was in Man's Search for Meaning, the Austrian psychiatrist. He said that a strong why will overcome any how.
Okay.
And that sums it up in a nutshell. A
Yeah.
strong why will overcome any how. People say, how are we going to do? How are we going to? How are we going to? I don't know. Why do we want to do it? Because, I mean, we can land men on the moon if we really want to, because the vision's captured. People get a picture in their mind, they get excited by it, and the
Yeah.
next thing they start being creative and they use magnificent minds, and you land people on the moon.
It's so interesting, just your whole philosophy and approach to relationships. I mean, as I said, with social media, it's attack, it's attack, it's attack. Asking you what advice would you give, and your immediate thing is to say, "I'm not going to give advice. I'm going to speak to you. I'm going to find out from you." And that's just so interesting. That's such an interesting way to look at relationships. So often we want to just give advice and tell you what the answer is, but actually, there's so much more to relationships.
I've learned, and hopefully I've been open to learning. I'm still learning. I mean,
Uh,
we're perfectly human. We're going to make mistakes, but we hope to get better, and we want to learn.
Yeah, the wisdom of age, we shall say. The big problem with a lot of relationships is toxicity. We have toxicity in the workplace can be like just like a cancer, whether it's the leader or a staff member who's bringing the toxicity. What have you ever discussed about toxicity in the workplace with clients or friends or just any sort of someone you have maybe been mentoring?
You know, it's a common gripe, Simon, as you're probably aware, because there are many dysfunctional cultural environments, dysfunctional leaders, even, and disgruntled members, which leads to toxicity in that particular team or environment unless something's done about it. It's almost like a hopeless cause in some situations because some people say, I just cannot do anything about it, or I've tried, or no, I'll just let them go because at least we're getting along and we're getting done what needs to be done,
Yeah.
which I don't believe is the right approach, but I can understand some people, their hands are tied. But there are
Mm.
a lot of people, their hands aren't tied and they're just not bothered to do it. But you know what happens? Those that do, they become good leaders or even better than leaders because they, they, they meet the challenge and they'll approach that, it's a member, they'll approach that member and they'll work through it with them. And often it's a top performer though. That's why they get away with what they do get away with. And that's
Yeah.
why leaders are sometimes reluctant to, hey, that's my top performer. I'll just let them get away with it because they're generating a lot of stuff. But they don't realize once that person goes, the other people like breathe a sigh of relief and they say, gee, why do you only get rid of them now? Because that person, as good as they are, they may be producing 50% of the team's business, for example.
Yeah.
But if you have 10 people in your team, they they're depressing the other's performance. They're demotivating them. So they're performing at like 10% less than they can. So 10 times 9 is 90%. So you've gained 40% by losing that person who's been toxic to the environment.
Yeah.
They must think like that because everyone else it just pushes, it just suppresses them. And it gives them an excuse to not actually contribute wholeheartedly. You see, because I believe in the 3H philosophy, the head, the heart, the hands. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a simple
Yeah.
thing once again. It's all, yeah, brain food. You can tell people what you want to, but if they're not connected emotionally, they're not going to contribute their hands. They're not going to fully engage. And you're going to have to fight for those hands. Gee,
Mm.
once people connect with the head and the heart, then they're going to actually willfully engage.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. You want people, both hands. Nowadays, you're fighting. You can't fight for one hand. You've got to have both hands coming through. Otherwise, you're going to be going backwards, pace of things, at the pace at which things move. And you need their full commitment. Teams are expected to do more, a lot of pressure on them, a lot of non-performers. So you want them to engage because they're committed, not because they're compliant.
So interesting that that taps back to what you had said earlier about the no pain, no gain thing of how to grow. You actually have to go through that pain and willingly, knowingly. And as a leader, do you shy away from, oh, that's difficult to deal with, or do you actually go and deal with it? And imagine if you're a leader and you get that person who's toxic but contributing half to the company, and you get them part of the working team, you just be so strong. But it just takes that hard work, the difficult thing to make the great leader.
Yeah, fulfilling the definition of leader is important. A lot of people, they're leaders, but they're managing more than leading. I mean, you probably heard that before as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
So they must make sure that they're fulfilling the definition as the role of a leader. Otherwise, the people will judge them according to that. And if they're not mapping up, they're going to actually start failing. And it's going to be really, really, really tough for them. What do they do? The leader needs to exercise the influence to move people from A to B. And how do they do that? That's the key. How do they exercise their influence? And there are different ways of doing it. You can tell people, or you can connect head, heart, hands so they want to engage. The plant, they're actually committed. They're doing what you want them to do because they want to do it. And then it's win-win. So that's why relationships are so important. You've got to meet people at their need, not your need. You've got to ask yourself, what's really important to you? What's really important? What's really important for them? And then what's really important for the relationship? Because you know what the questions they're going to be asking themselves? Can I trust this person? Do they care for me? And how can they support me? If you're their leader, and if they can't tick all those three boxes, hey, you're going to get one hand. You probably won't get two. It's going to be a grudge until you get that third one. And only
yeah.
relationship can break that. Those three things are key in any relationship in life, Simon. Trust, care, support. And you shouldn't waste your time in relationships where you can't tick those three boxes. If it's important to you and you should, then good, you've got to work on it. Which ones do you need to work on? At least you've got some idea now. And then work on them. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. Walk away from them.
Excellent. Very.
That may sound a bit harsh, but you know, that's what you learn. And that's
Yeah.
unfortunately the truth for the way I see it.
No,
And it's what worked in my life.
that rings really, really true.
When you sit down with people, how do you build a relationship with them? You sit down and you ask, if you're leading them in a business environment, for example. Okay, so you're here, you have a job, you have a specific responsibility. Where would you like to go? You remember, it's all about them. It starts with you as a leader, but it's all
Yeah.
about your people. Because if you help them with good relationships, you're going to be made to look good.
Yeah.
Where would you like to go? Then ask why. You want to know their reasons.
Mm.
Okay, so now you need to actually coach them and mentor them and guide them based on their unique reasons, if it makes sense and if it's possible. Then you
Yeah.
say, well, what are you prepared to do to commit to that? Because there's got to be some, not just going to happen. And that will give you a good gauge and a sense of really how committed they really are, how much they thought about it. And then you can measure them based on their commitment, because if they don't commit and you can see, hey, listen, you said you're going to think, but it's not happening. Okay, the wrong person. But otherwise, remind them, this is why you said you're doing it. You've got to keep the fresh in mind. Otherwise, you're going to slack off because the other things are going to distract you or whatever. And then the other question is, how can I support you with that? You see, so you're holding them totally accountable for their own lives, because the biggest problem, the biggest mistake people make in life is thinking that they work for someone else. And if you
Yeah,
can get that across as a leader, it's their life. Good grief. They may be working for an organization, but it's their life. No one's going to remember you for any other reason, and it's your life. Your children are going to remember you. They're going to know how well you're doing, mum or dad at work. How are you
yeah.
performing? So,
Um,
how do you hold people accountable? That's it. You've got to find out why they're doing what they're doing, and how, if they're prepared to commit. And if they're not, then you probably got the wrong person. But that's how they show themselves. And then you can hold them accountable to what they want, not necessarily what you want. You know what you want.
Must be so easy to be there and think I'm now in charge. Now listen to me. But actually, it's the other way around. It's about me listen to you and me put my ego aside. It's about controlling your own ego, I guess, which is maybe also quite a key part of of relationships.
Yeah, unfortunately, ego is a massive killer, hey? Of relationships, of life, of people.
Mm,
Respect, everything goes out the window. Ego, I mean, the books have been written about it, and particularly men, this
yeah.
ego. Yet, there's a book written years ago by Jim Collins, Good to Great. And this research team analyzed these great leaders. And I mean, there were only 13 companies out of all the Fortune 500 companies that qualified. So they had to be really
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
And one of their common traits was that they were humble. And people think,
Uh,
oh, you're humble. How can you be a great leader and get fantastic results if you're humble? Humble doesn't mean you're weak. Good grief. It's very different. It means you connect with people. That people work really hard. They said, yeah, we work hard, but we know we strongly connect to our people because they demand stuff from us, but they treat us so fairly.
yeah.
So that's the key, eh? Yeah, humility. It trumps ego every single time. Humility.
You also touch on fixed mindsets and growth mindsets. I'm sure you could talk for days about this topic, huge topic.
Yes, yeah, it is, Simon. I mean, once again, numerous books and resources exist out there. But I just want to mention three things regarding that. The fixed mindset is it's all about your ability and your potential. Fixed mindset, people think that is my ability, that's what I'm going to get. They don't really see themselves as being able to grow and advance and really explode. And that's the way they live their lives, unfortunately. I've qualified, I've got this, and this is me. This is who I am, which is sad. And some people have told me, Tim, I'm not going to change because this is who I am. So, well, it depends what you want. There again, maybe there's no need for them to change. Maybe they are the boss and they've got a big ego. So why should they
Yeah.
belittle themselves or make a fool of themselves? Or because the biggest failing of most leaders is insecurity. The research has
Sure.
shown where a leader
Yeah.
fails, it's mostly as a result of, and you can see that around the world. I mean, it's they're insecure. They start, they fight, they do all crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So they get challenged, but the person with the growth mindset wants to learn. They want to grow because you either win or you learn. And that comes
Yeah.
from John Maxwell. People say, no, you win
Excellent.
or you lose. But no, no, no. You only lose if you
Yeah.
don't learn. So you win or you learn. And that's a growth mindset. Fantastic. What
Yeah.
can we learn from? Because you're going to learn more than you're going to win in life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's actually, what can I take from that? We tried it. And you don't want to prevent people from trying things in case they fail. I was one of those classics as well. I was too scared of failing and I didn't want to, I feared failure when I played cricket, and it hampered me a lot. I just wish I knew a lot more than than I did. And I just wish I knew a lot more in those days than I do now. So yeah, the person who has a growth mindset, they see the glass half full, and they can refill it, or they say, "Hey, it's refillable." Whereas the fixed mindset will say, "No, it's glass half empty. It is what it is." So that's also very sad. So you see, the fixed mindset manager or leader, they'll help people get better on the job. The growth mindset leader, people get for life. So
Wow.
that I think just encapsulates those two.
I think it's the Chinese who are so brilliant at maths. But what I heard was that when we do maths at school, if we fail, get it wrong, it's terrible and I'm so bad and I'm scared of making a mistake. Whereas I believe it's them who they're encouraged just to if you get it wrong, do it again, do it again, do it again until you get it right. And that attitude is a way to just to achieve by not being hampered by your failings or ego, I suppose. Which is just, I presume that's really a growth mindset, I imagine.
Yes, how do you perceive it, hey? And that's really important that
Mm,
they know failure doesn't mean that you've lost, that
mm,
you're no good. It just means that you try again with hindsight, and you'll hopefully get better,
yeah.
and you'll get through what you need to get through.
Tim, relationships, they're so complex, yet they're also rewarding and challenging. What message, final message do you have for listeners in terms of what you'd like to share about relationships?
Right? Relationships are complex because we probably make them so. Where it starts is what is disappointment? Because I think when we're disappointed, it plays out in our relationships all the time. And if we can avoid more disappointments in our life, then relationships will be better. So disappointments arise. In fact, the disappointment is the gap between your expectation that you have for something and the reality, what actually happens. And
Interesting.
the bigger the gap, the greater the chance of disappointment. And that is your disappointment. So, in other words, know what your expectations are in that relationship. What are your expectations of one another? Clarify those and go through them. And don't just say, okay, I've heard it once a month ago or 3 months ago. Keep on qualifying that because things change all the time. They could change tomorrow. Hey, this is what I'm expecting, but tomorrow something happens in my life, and so now the expectation is different. So, particularly with the key people around you, you need to actually always be talking about expectations so you can help them match those expectations wherever possible so the disappointment is reduced or kept to a minimum. Where expectations are met, men, harmonious, things fly, awesome. But we know it doesn't always work like that. Because that's why people get disappointed. When they get disappointed, they're going to blame. They're going to look to take shortcuts, blame other people, and do all that stuff that's just doesn't help anyone. Secondly, we're social beings with strong sense of belonging, wanting to belong. We're
Yeah.
all social beings with a strong sense of wanting to belong, and that is relationship. And
Mm,
that's why I said it's so important to have a support group around you who will have your best interest at heart, not tell you what was going to fluff you up
yeah.
and inflate your ego, but tell you the reality, the way they see it.
Yeah.
So they share stuff with you. If there's psychological safety in that relationship, they'll be prepared to share that stuff, and you want them to, and you want to encourage them. And if they're not telling you, you've got to keep asking them. Don't just expect them to come at you, because most people won't really. But ask them, hey, how well am I doing with regards to this? What did you notice with regards to that? How did I respond to this? What is my relationship, do you think? How do you see it from the outside with this particular person or whatever? So they're really critical to you, your key inner circle of people, because they will help you get you where you want to go. And we all need that. We're strong social beings. If we don't feel we belong somewhere, oh, we're going to feel so alone. And you can feel so alone in a massive crowd.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not healthy at all. And then just finally, the third thing is the relationship that you have with yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't like ourselves. We go through stuff. How did it happen? Why did it happen to me? And that's useless or whatever it is. And you do. You kind of pull yourself down. You feel you let someone down or whatever it is. And we're all going to go through that, but we've got to work through those things. Your relationship you have yourself. If you don't have a good relationship with yourself, how can you expect to have good relationship with other people? You just can't.
Totally.
You just cannot. It's impossible. You can fake it, but it's going to come through.
Mm,
Your true thoughts and feelings, behavior will come through. And then people are going to say, hey, that person's not authentic. And then if you don't know who you are, how do you expect other people to know who you are?
yeah.
So that's why at the end of the day, you can go through the book and hopefully it's going to help you polish some of the areas of your relationships which you think would help you to advance further with them and to make a difference. So
Yeah.
that you're not just making a difference for the greater good, but you can leave a legacy which is going to be significant. Our insecurities, they can do a lot of damage to people.
Yeah.
And some people, in the business world, when I ask the managers to give a 360 assessment on the leader, some leaders say, no, I don't want that. They don't want feedback from what their managers are thinking about them in certain areas.
Yeah.
And then I just try to encourage them, but they're the only ones that are going to miss out at the end of the day. It just shows you can be In fact, the EQ of leaders, and this was done in some research mentioned in Leading Self, another's book, at the top leaders, their EQ was lower than the people on the shop floor.
Sure. That's
You see,
astonishing.
because they can hide behind their position or title and just close the door and don't disturb
Yeah.
me. You can't argue with me because I'm going to make a decision anyway. I don't have to work through all this stuff. I'm just going to say because this is what I want.
Mm.
And yeah, you got to suck it up and take it. But people will start pushing back, and it's not what
Mm.
you want. You want people to be actually open those things and discuss them in an open environment where you know what people are thinking, and you want them
Yeah.
to say what they're saying. Because if they don't say it there, they're going to act it out. If they
100%.
don't say it in a meeting, they're going to act it out somehow, and you want them to rather say it there so you can actually
Mm.
discuss it.
Fantastic. Tim, it's been fantastic talking to you. Thanks so much. Your book, Relationship Philosophy, people are very glib when they say a book is life changing, but I mean, your book really is a book that can change a person's life. And thanks so much for sharing about it. Where can listeners get a copy of your book, and how can potential clients get in touch with you if they want to work with you in a workshop or any form of development situation?
timshaw.co.za is my website, so you can contact me there. You can get the book there when it's up and running. The other books are there in the meantime, but you want to have a look at them. But also on LinkedIn. So those are probably the two areas where we can keep in touch. I look
Fantastic.
forward to hearing from you if you're interested in discussing something or taking it further. Whoever's out there listening to this, and just thanks for the opportunity, Simon.
Super. Thanks for your time, Tim, and best of luck with the book and everything else going forward.
Thanks, Simon.